You should be.
Right.
No.
All right, Kathy.
Do we need it? No.
All righty, good evening. We are starting the first space session of the year, January 6th, 2026. City clerk state roll. We will start with presentation / discussion items, starting with the oath of office for positions 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Most of y'all. This is because in the ones that we're doing for the short term as well as the long term, it's because that was a recent change in RCW for this year actually. So you have to do it for the short term to fill that remainder as well as the normal regular term. So positions 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. If you wouldn't mind standing up over here, we will administer the oath of office. There's my couple. You can stand. You can go re-administer your own.
Order.
Wear my tall shoes today, guys.
All right, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Zelda Arias,
Do solemnly swear
Do
solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and
constitutional
constitutional
laws
of the state of Washington,
of the state of Washington.
and that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
perform and discharge
Perform and discharge
the duties of the office of
the duties of the office of
City of Yelm City Council.
City of Yelm City Council,
State your position
position 3,
Six.
according to law to the best of my ability.
according to law to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Oh.
And we'll take a picture for. I don't need to be in this one. It's.
We got good. It's not, just put your hair in the picture. Tugging hair. That's what we need. Push.
He's taking a video. Did you get my good side?
Thank you, congratulations, and we'll go ahead and have you sign the civic oath here. I have Griselda. Oh, here we go.
So that's it.
You can hand that back to Kathy.
That's yours.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a yes, no. All right. Now that's done. We'll go ahead and move on to personnel policy. Karen. HR Director.
Council, and Happy New Year.
Oh, thanks, Karen.
Here's some little handouts here. So, every at least 5 years, we need to review our personnel policies for compliance and legality. And we as internal review for like city manager, city administrator, director, has to go through the whole process of review along with our students and AWC RSA, the risk management association expert of the office. And with that, we came up with about 10 edits that we're going to make, and along with revisions that include general language. So when you get your packets, they'll have the line the personnel policy. So you'll see a lot of part of that. So they're mainly the general language corrections or changes. But I have 10 changes that I'll go over with you. If you have any questions, please. Chap, go ahead.
I was gonna say, with the first one. When you say evolving wage and hour laws, we're talking about how.
Well, in particular with us, because we have a number of employees that work different hours, 10 hours, 9 hours different. So how you manage their overtime. So we made it so it reads to apply to every employee, no matter what their work hours are. So if they worked a 9-hour day, they would get overtime after the end of the hour. So if you wait 8 hours, they get overtime.
Well, it's going to the federal government to make a change of overtime is not supposed to be taxed, so I'm wondering, and I've heard and read a lot of stories of companies that are finding workarounds, and I want to make sure that we were being fair and equitable to our employees about that.
We will be. And I think that that's what I'm trying when she started paying her taxes for state 55, so they'll get a lot more of that. And as I hang up at the top right now. Our second in chapter 2, sections 2.070, we added projects and grant managers, a manager to our exempt staff, which is outlined in our personnel policy. In chapter 2, section 5.200, we added language supporting lactation accommodations consistent with legal requirements under the federal compact. Then in chapter 2, under section 8.010, we have had a telework policy that has been available to our employees for the last 3 years. We haven't had it in our personnel policy because our last update was 3 years ago, 2023. So that's been included. In chapter 3, section 2.010, we removed city administrator and mayor approval language for adding positions, as that has been done for a while now through the budgeting process. So we changed that. Chapter 4, section 0.6010, we added a language to protect our city assets as employees exit employment here. We don't really have anything that says that if you don't return your laptop, don't return your phone, that we can't recover the value of those on their final check. So. Then on chapter 5, sections 1.02 and 030, we removed evaluation procedures as with our handbook to be more modernized as we do our performance reviews with employees. In practice of doing that. Then on chapter 7, section 11, we updated the family and medical leave language to align with the current federal laws. And then in chapter 7, section 12, we fully updated the paid family medical leave language to align with current state law. And then chapter 8, 9, 10, and a variety of sections in those chapters. We modernized language to clearly designate human resources oversight as for employment responsibility and conduct for disciplinary and investigation. It's not for the mayor or the city administrator to do that, it's HR. And that concludes my little presentation. I'm happy to please.
I imagine we'll get a copy of this.
Yes, it comes out, your packet, or I can email it to you tonight.
I'm curious if by chance, if you know any of the removed outdated evaluation procedures, such as curious what.
Well, the lovely forms where you have like 12 questions and you evaluate them 1 through 5, and then at the end you have a little number that's 35 or whatever. What we use here currently for maybe the last 3 years is we individually meet with our employees on a one-on-one basis all through their career. And we talk to them about the great things they're doing, the things they need improvement, where they want to go, where they want to be. We work with them out throughout the year. So it's not just one time a year you meet with somebody and 6 months later they found out, they've been doing something wrong, but they didn't really get an opportunity to correct us. We've worked with our employees all through their career instead of doing a one-time review.
Oh, okay, so it's the outdated evaluation procedures, more or less, come in, evaluate, hey, you're doing good.
Yes.
See you next time I see you.
Yeah.
Got it. Excellent, thank you.
And yes, your packet will have the red lines of the policy. And then I'll see you next Tuesday.
More questions?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
All right, next agenda item is an annexation discussion. Cody, Gary. Not, I. You can sell that way.
A few things. You recall in December, council adopted the interlocal agreement, which has to precede the annexation. Well, we have to bring that back. It's the exact same agreement, but it was a public hearing, which we didn't properly notice in the newspaper, but the agenda itself did not say it was a hearing. So we will be bringing it back next Tuesday. Absolutely nothing's changed on it, but we want to make sure, as far as Open Public Meetings Act compliance is concerned, that we do it by book. So we'll be back Tuesday. But after the adoption of the interlocal agreement last month, the very next day, we mailed those frequently asked question flyers, which are on the table for you all, to all the parcels that are in the proposed annexation area. There are 312 parcels. I think about 280 unique owners. So everybody got the letter. We also went live with the webpage. So when you pull up the city's webpage now, the first thing you see popping up is that the annexation is happening on December 23rd. And we announced in the letter that we sent to the property owners that we're going to have an open house for the council members. We're at that open house on December 23rd. We had 50 chairs. They were all full. And we had about 30 more people standing. So there were 80 people there. That was quite a lot of interest. It's certainly the biggest open house I've had in my 3 years here. There were people for and there were people against, as you would expect. So I thought it was a good discussion. I think that the frequently asked questions flyer did a lot of good because there were a lot of questions that were answered for them before they came to the open house. And frankly, 90% of the questions were traffic related. Do you want to say anything about that or?
Yeah, so the council members there probably noticed, but a lot of them were about similar questions we hear all the time. When's the bypass can be done? When you can make 507 bigger, when you make 510 things. And so we, told them what we're doing internally, what we can do internally versus what's controlled by the state. And some people were happy with that answer. Some people were not happy with that answer. But we are making connections and this growth helps pay for those connections. So that was one thing I explained to them. And a lot of people were satisfied with it.
So anyway, on the 13th, we will again revisit the ILA. On the 27th. Then I will be coming to the council to seek adoption of the ordinance that would make the annexation take effect. So the 27th is the big day. We're putting that on the website. We have what's called a listserv on the website. So when it went live, anybody who wants to get about dates can put their information in there. Trying to make sure that people have every opportunity to stay informed by giving them some tools. So when I say you would adopt the annexation on the 27th, if you choose to do so, it won't take effect for 60 days following that. So the ordinance will say takes effect 60 days from the date of adoption. It could not legally take effect a minimum of 45 days after adoption anyway, because it has to go to the Boundary Review Board. We're going to add a couple weeks to that just to make sure we've got plenty of time to work with the Boundary Review Board and et cetera. So March 27th, assuming nothing happens before the time you adopt it and it goes to the Boundary Review Board, would be the official date that the annexation would take place. Following that, we're required by law to do a post-annexation census. We hire a company to do that. There's, I think, only one in the state. They're called Calm River Demographics. And they will actually have to go door to door, do a census of the area. And that's for the State Office of Financial Management, Population Division. So this all goes into their demographics department. I don't really have much else unless there are any questions. You've all heard from me on this so many times.
Just to say, I was there at the meeting, you guys both did an amazing job answering the questions.
Thank you.
Very concise and well done. And then my next question is, are these people going to be getting welcome letters to the city of Yelm now?
Well, it's not a bad idea, although sometimes that might backfire, but yeah, I don't know. I hadn't really honestly consider that.
And they already invite them to the council meeting, because there was, when they stood up and said, well, we don't even know who these people are.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea though, but not only just welcoming them, but letting them know what differences are gonna be happening now that they're part of the city. In terms of voting, in terms of future connections, stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, good idea.
So that is in the frequently asked questions flyer, but yeah, that doesn't mean we can't follow up afterwards.
After it's everything's said and done, yeah, it's a good idea.
Yes.
Clarifying the annexation, the census will be only for the areas that were annexed.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand. When I'm looking up there, I see some like blank spaces, because heavy commercial and industrial with zone one, I think we're probably zone two, and all, I'm just wondering, why are those not color coded as?
I think that's a right of way.
I think it's the yellow loop that you're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to know what we were.
Yeah.
That's what that was, yeah.
Yep, Yelm loop goes right through here, that's why you see like the off color of it.
Alright.
And then same here, you got the 507 and then a little bit of lines through here where some of the loops are.
Good question.
Other questions, comments? Tracy?
No.
David?
So with regard to us making this decision, we need to do what's best for the citizens of Yelm, right? So who's representing the people who are gonna be annexed in this decision?
I mean, you will be, these are people that you'll be taking on. Prior to that, it's county commissioners. They're doing their part, and I believe they are complete on their end.
Yes. Yeah.
On their procedures and all that. So the process starts, I guess it doesn't start with them. They were the initial ones though that started this whole request for the bigger, I think we initiated,
Reach out to the
but
county.
they grew it besides, I guess.
I think they had some suggestions from some of the roads that they didn't want to keep maintaining because it just didn't make sense. So, I mean, we worked together to kind of come up with the final boundary.
And
But it
then,
was initiated by us primarily.
so ultimately, both of us, I suppose, us in the sense that we're taking them on and for the future, including in the city limits.
Yeah.
And these are all, I do want to clear, these are all areas in our GMA, the growth management.
We're going to act for UGA,
UGA,
urban growth area.
urban growth area where it's designed to be taken into the city limits eventually. Whereas today or tomorrow, that's what it's meant for.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so you actually remind me of a couple brief talking points that we had to open the open house. One of them was that this urban growth area was established by the city and the county in the early 90s. And it was supposed to have been annexed within 20 years. It was agreed between the city and the county that it was just a matter of. So that's one point. The other, two major points that we have for doing the annexation. One, under growth management, we have to demonstrate that we can accommodate our projected housing and population needs over the next 20 years. Thurston County, or Thurston Regional Planning Council did a land capacity analysis as part of our plan update, and we were about 2,500 housing units short with our current city boundaries. So we had them reanalyze it based on if we were to annex this area, would we be back into compliance with growth management? And they said yes. So part of this isn't just being in compliance with state law. We have to show that we have the land capacity to accommodate our growth. We don't have a choice. Secondly, obviously, is the issue we've talked about before. We have really irregular boundaries, and so people can walk 3 blocks on a county road, get back on the city road, walk another 3 blocks, be on the county. It's very inefficient for a lot of different services that we provide. And then finally, Cody kind of weighed in with point 3, which is there is kind of an issue of fairness from the standpoint of the fact that the areas were annexed, the vast majority of people who live in those areas basically function as citizens of Yelm, but they don't pay taxes to support the services that they benefit from the city of Yelm. So maintaining, expanding parks, maintaining roads, etc. So, some of these areas you can't go out of your driveway without being in the city, and driving on city streets or going to the dog park or what have you. So there's that element to it. Those were kind of our three main points for the open.
Are there any other concerns, David?
No, I just want to clarify that. When was this current UGA boundary made?
90s, as you said, like in 94.
Yeah, so Growth Management Act was adopted in 90. And it took the cities and counties a couple years to do some of the things they had to do, which was establish those UGAs. So I don't have the exact year, but it would be between 92 and 93.
Any other questions? Comments? All right, thank you, Gary. Thank you.
Have a great night.
You. All right, moving on, committee assignments. Council committee assignments. Pass out this list here. Steve, one and pass it along, please. These are all the different committee assignments that are currently available. Thank you, Kathy, for putting this together, along with the meeting date times, location, and who the current person is that's on it. Like we get it from myself, I don't take a majority of these. In the past, it's been fairly consistent with what the mayor does and what we always do. I kind of take that back a little bit from the mayor. But if there are FD ones that council can't do, then it just falls upon me to go ahead and take these. And I will. But I do want to keep TRPC, at least the benefits for myself and South Sound Military Community Partnership. These are more external anyway. But if council ever wants to be part of these or wants to know more, happy to have that discussion with you all. If there's, I'm gonna ask that by Friday, you email either myself or Kathy, our city clerk, or both of us preferably, to let us know your first, second, and third choices for all of these, including the external committees, first, second, third for those, and first, second, third for the internal committees as well. I'm just ranking 1, 2, 3, and I will do my best to get you at least one of your top choices here. I want to make sure that you're engaged with what you're doing. You want to, be on the committee. If you don't want to be on this committee, it doesn't serve anybody. But fortunately, with as many council members there will be potentially committees that you're not necessarily your favorite, and that's just part of the gig. But that said, I do want to point at things that you want to be part of and are interested in. So if there's any questions regarding any of these committees or anything on it, let me know now. Ask if there's any questions at all on it. Is anyone have anything? Stephanie.
Be talking about a few times it's been brought up of creating part of an external committee to be involved with the cemetery commission as well. So that's not on the list. I mean, we haven't.
Yeah, that's more of an informal, but yeah, what is the interest on council to maintain that for the cemetery district? Are you hoping that it does stay, but not necessarily yourself?
I think it interferes with one of the other committees that I'm on, so I couldn't necessarily do that right now. I have been on it, just private interest. I just think that it might be, it's a very small committee and they meet just monthly. But I think that more, awareness has come about just recently of what they do. And they own cemetery. And so part of our funding goes there.
Yeah, they're their own taxing district, so it's not our money per se for the cities. We don't have a budget item that goes to them. But it is people that we represent that do pay taxes towards it. Is there any interest from anyone else that would want to attend for those, be the liaison for that committee? Not seeing much interest in council, but I do agree that, it is valuable to have someone in it. Is it something maybe you want to do and we arrange some of your committees to do it? It's
Choosing fire authority over the cemetery, I would rather stay involved with the fire authority. It's taken quite a long time to get to know policy over there and understanding the big picture of that. So I would hate to stay away from that at this moment in time. Just because of the conflict with the schedule, I would say at this point that couldn't.
Okay. That said though, let's try to. If it isn't for you, let's try to, see if someone can't be there at least quarterly or, maybe once, twice a year. And yeah, we can discuss that further. Yeah.
When is the meeting for cemetery district?
Where does it take
What?
place? Right, oh, it's the first Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. And it's at the sunset. It's actually really nice over there. I just might say so.
They have a nice board room, I hear.
Beautiful about here, but-
It's nice.
All right, any other questions on any of these? Yeah.
I noticed also the Arts Commission isn't on here, but I'm happy to stay on that. It's
Okay.
the way it is.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. If there's any other interest too, one of the council members, sounds like you've got. That's one thing to do on you.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from current council members if there's something that you guys are like, no, this is mine, I love this.
Yeah, if you want to have that discussion right now.
Priority is
Yes.
mine. I was down, so we're clear.
She wants to stay.
I really want to stay on the river, so because send an update is just something.
9 AM to 12?
Yeah, it's long, it's a lot. It's a
That's
big-
why you have so much to report.
You know what, I mean, if I can interject here though too, could anybody tell a story like Terry about?
Nine to 12, I thought last week, 9 to 12, my job would not be okay.
And as you can imagine, I just as soon stay with TPD and 911 or whatever we discussed earlier. If nobody's interested in SWAC, I'd be more than happy to take that on. And I think there's a lot happening in the county that we could have entry, bring our perspective to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're on these committees, you're absolutely representing the city, be on your, best behavior and all that, just think, it's. How would you want the city to be represented? We're not necessarily making big decisions, if it is like a impactful decision that's for all of us to make sure that you're letting myself at the very least know, but likely in your reports, some of those decisions are. If something that it's on the fly, obviously manage it and handle it the best of your ability and how you think it would handle it. That's why we're putting you in these positions to represent, the city's interests and all that. So, yeah.
Unless somebody's really dying to take the intercity transit, I would like to continue to be on that because I've got a good working relationship. I know what's going on. And they are used to me, helping them from the way that I do it, make sure that we as Yelm, with the growth that we've had, they are starting to actually look at that growth. Just so that was something, but as I said, if somebody really wants to have it, we can discuss it.
I went to some of those meetings with Hess and Hess asks a lot of good questions, so. He does well there.
Good. All right, if there's not any other questions, we'll move on, but make sure that you email me those by this Friday. And Griselda, you have your email set up, go, great, and everyone else, good to go. So
What do you say, how to do it?
either email, 1 through 3 on your top for external and 1 through 3 on your, you might as well actually do 1 through 4 on your internal committee as well. Yeah, it's because there's 4 of them.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could do it, process elimination, it's just really super. Okay. Anything else before we move on? All right, make sure to get those emails to myself and Kathy. All right, moving on to Mayor Pro Tem. And lastly on those, we will likely switch those out every 2 years, or as needed if the council member leaves, for whatever reason resigns, the person taking on whoever fills that seat will likely fill those positions unless there's a big wash or needs them. Also that wants those committees, stuff like that. So for 2 years, we're hopefully, we can have some, continuity on those committees. Moving on to Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem, the biggest thing is we need to be ready to step in. I never should I not be able to perform my duties, whether it's at a city council meeting or study session or at a function where I'm representing the city. I represent the city on a lot of external stuff, different meetings, different events. It can be as, I won't say small, but as for example, they can be like ribbon cutting, stuff like that, where they could be more
High level.
I don't want to say high level, they're all very important things, but let's say we're at a city council meeting and I'm not here to run the meeting. That would be when the mayor pro tem would step in and run the meeting as if they were the mayor. They would still vote during the meeting on any agenda items that require council vote, but they would just run the meeting in my stead as chair of the meeting. If both the mayor pro tem and the mayor is not present at the meeting, then the council would take a vote on the members that are there, to see who is the chair for that meeting. That said, if both the mayor and the mayor pro tem aren't there, there's only 5 of you, 6 of you, so, yeah, so it's it could be a tie. But yeah, it's never happened when I'm here, I have never missed a meeting, but that doesn't always, you never know. Yeah, don't cruise that. Is there any, and then so that person is chosen by the council, it is strictly your call on that. But it's something to think about. Personally, I think it's important that someone knows how to run a meeting, and that's the very least, you should be able to run a meeting in my absence. I do try to give you as much opportunities, especially during, we'll see here whether we want, sometimes for the mayor pro tem to run these study session meetings. I think it gives good experience for them to, in case there is a time, city council meeting where they need to run good experience. That said, are there any questions regarding mayor pro tem?
We're running the study session meetings, that's a fairly new idea, right?
Yep.
And then I thought under a mayor strong council, it was a mayor appointed position. Will we be voting on this, like selecting, like how does this
Yeah,
process work?
mayor pro tem is not selected by the mayor. That's one that is selected by your peers on city council. I believe I would be able to break the tie if there was if there were 6 members or 4 members even.
Tie breaking it
yeah.
per usual, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the limitations on that.
Just to clarify, if I remember correctly, Mayor Pro Tem is also a standing member of the general. Yeah, the
Yes.
general government.
Yes, thank you for that. They are a member of the general government committee. And it's also something that we do just to, I guess let folks know about the operations of the city. Normally, council doesn't really have too much input on that, but we do like to make sure that if there is something we're changing or a policy coming up, we talk about the agendas, putting agendas in that committee as well. We'll discuss it for that as well.
Even though that's pretty big, we out of the last, that was not even on there.
No, they did serve on it. They did serve on the general government committee. You're right, though, it was a newer thing that we brought back. Some cities have it, some cities don't. We didn't have it for the first couple of years here during my term. Prior to my term, there was like a couple of years they did as well. It's been on and off.
But that means that you're going to appoint the general government committee, then only those people
2 of them, yeah.
get to be given a choice.
All right, I will appoint 2, that's a good point. I will appoint 2 to that committee, and the 3rd will be the mayor pro tem. If that 3rd person is the one of those 2, then I'll select someone else for it. Yeah, good question. Any other questions on mayor pro tem?
So how do you do it?
The process. So someone, you should nominate yourself.
Josh.
Yeah, that's the way you want to do it. No, it's gotta be voted on. For this one, it's simple majority vote. If you want to nominate yourself, we'll go through nominations. If someone wants to nominate themselves, they can do that. They'll have to have a second. After that, they'll be on the, I guess, ballot, if you will. And we'll go through as many people that wants to do it.
We're doing that now.
No, not now. We'll do it the next meeting. I'm just giving you a heads up so you can, prepare. And, talk to your one-on-one. Council members don't have a majority when you're talking about it, obviously. But yeah, we'll do that at the next city council meeting and that person will start duties at that point. That'll be for 2 years. Any questions on that? All right,
So do we talk about it now?
if you want to talk about, it will happen publicly, whether you like it or not, next
Right,
meeting.
that's what I'm.
Yeah, let's talk about it now.
So-
Does anybody wanna do it?
I think it'd be cool.
I kind of want to do it.
Oh,
Right, Gary,
Me, I said me.
Stephanie? So we got some,
Tracy's done it.
I've already done it. You guys have a chance at it.
Did you enjoy it?
It was a lot like Joey's. Didn't do a lot. There wasn't a lot for me to do.
Doesn't miss anything.
Mayor, I did a meeting.
you did a study session at least.
Yeah, but it was the agenda was 2 or 3 items, it's mostly housekeeping. I didn't really have any, and we weren't, the pro temp wasn't doing study sessions at that time, so there was none of that. The highlight, I suppose, was the one meeting, State of the City. I had to do a State of the City at the pavilion at St. Martin's.
Oh,
And, that was be brief, be right, be done.
is that for Harding, for Peter?
Boy, that's a good question. That is a good question. I must have been for Jada, but then I'm speculating. I don't remember. It was so long ago. Fair enough. But yeah,
That's a good example.
it's a good experience. It's a little bit just like any of this, when you first show up, it's a lot. But, once you kind of recognize what's going on and learn the roles. It's not scary at all. Yeah, but once again, in this case, I don't think you're gonna really have a lot to do, because as he said, he has missed a meeting.
Never missed a meeting in like 10 years. They
10 years, yeah.
And then mayors, yeah. Not cursing you either.
Thank you. But yeah, there might be times where it's more likely is this, if I'm not able to attend some external event, which there are a lot, I get invited to, or if the mayor of hotel really wants to go to that instead of me, I'm happy to for all that too, rather than me do it. Yeah. It's good experience, like Tracy was saying, but it looks like we have at least 3 people that are interested in it.
no.
I
rushed you, sorry.
All of you have experience and people doing it, so I'd be happy with any of you doing it, yeah, so, cool. Any other questions on that before we move on? All right, council retreat, 2026 council retreat, every year. Do you want to say something before we start?
Well, I just had an idea, but it's on my phone, so.
You want to grab your phone?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so every year we do a council retreat, at least since I've been married, we've had it each year, other years it's kind of been spotty. I think it is important that we do the council retreat, for a few reasons. One, I think team building wise, it's important that we see each other in different settings. And being able to work with each other, and we're here, at least two years for at least some of you. Yeah.
Just the biggest thing that I always thought for the retreats that we've had since I've been in is that from the department heads, being able to hear them, and that's almost a 5-hour briefing. And that allows us to know what's about to come up for the budget, so we can start communicating or something like that, instead of sitting in a meeting here for 5 hours. Or just one department talking each month and such, so.
One of the things we like to kind of, staff and I want to make a few suggestions to council. And this is your retreat here. So whatever you want to do, we'll make happen, within reason here. 2 things I think are important to kind of establish right now as we're figuring out where we want to do it. I think location, proximity to Yelm, whether you want to do it inside city limits, you want to do it outside. I know there was some concern last year, and I don't know if it's because of election year, but it got brought up a lot about where we held it and the distance from Yelm. I personally think that it's beneficial to have it a little bit of a distance from Yelm, just to get outside of what we normally do here. That said, we do keep it open. If someone wants to attend, they're more than welcome. We're not trying to hide anything, but I do think it is a valuable way for the council to go ahead and get together and have a moment together where they don't necessarily always have that opportunity. For team building reasons, I think it's good. For staff reasons, familiarize yourself with staff, their departments, what they do. And vice versa, having them understand who you are as a council member and what your priorities are, what your thoughts are on certain things. It's helpful for them as well. And lastly, it's also, we talk about some big items, long range items. So that said, I kind of want to feel out council whether or not you want to do it locally, you want to stay overnight. If we're going somewhere else, if you want to do a one day, and with that, we'll kind of go on some other things.
Yeah, I like the, getting a location away, and then for a few reasons. One, because I'm too much of a dependable person and I'm too easily distracted. And for me to really focus and really just hone in on getting to know my fellow council members, and as well as listening and focusing in on, city presentations. It's really great to unplug from your hometown, because I do like so many things here. And then once I pull away from here, I go, okay, now I know that I am not to be distracted or called upon, or I can't even come help you if I wanted to, because I'm 2 hours away. So that's healthy in that way, because then we can really pull away and focus and really give it our full attention to that. And however people feel about the way they feel of, oh, they're just going away so they can keep secrets, whatever. We have streaming capabilities if that's what you want. I mean, heck, we stream this, so might as well just do that if we want to. I mean, not saying that we need to. I'm just saying it is nice to get away and focus and give my full attention and time to my colleagues and to the city of Yelm.
Yeah, and regarding the transparency piece, if there are presentations, I think we can and probably will go ahead and share that publicly as well. So people can say, this is what was, discussed. We're not hiding anything about either 640 acres. That's a big deal. Yelm Loop, some of our major transportation. So if we do have presentations, let's go ahead and get that up on the website too. Maybe we can just do one document under council retreat stuff. Good idea, right?
To piggyback up with what Councilmember Richardson was talking about, it also not only allows us to disconnect and be able to focus on the city business, but also all the department heads. They are not able to be reached. They actually have to.
Yes.
They have to give their second in charge that leadership opportunity, but they are going to be there to give us their full attention as well and not get pulled away in the middle of something. So that a little distance, I think, and that's the only reason I would agree with that.
Is there anyone for wanting to keep it here in Yelm besides the limits?
The very word retreat needs to step back or.
Right.
It's always good.
I think we're too close. I think Joe had said it. I feel like the best, I think last year, it's going away far enough that you don't feel compelled to come home in the middle, or yes, you're retreating so that you can have that focus and that frame of mind to be inspirational or inspired.
Good points.
We'd like to go away.
Overnight is good.
Yeah, is everyone wanting to do that overnight again?
Maybe 2 nights.
You too, as you're part of the council and.
Maybe 2 nights if we could get a
Two.
little sponsor.
Most out of whatever we decide.
What I find is that we get there and the staff reports are fantastic, and you come, your brain is full of so many details, and you go and have dinner, and then the next day it's our turn. And everybody seems to be so exhausted and ready to go home by then, and I wish we had more time like this to sit and say, let's get a project, let's be inspired and really talk and really do this part of it. That's what I would like to see more of.
Okay. One other thing that now we kind of established that we'll start looking at locations and with those parameters, but also whether or not we want to have a moderator to help guide some of these discussions. I think it might be beneficial to have a moderator come in at least for a portion of the retreat, not necessarily the whole thing, to help facilitate some of the bigger discussions. What are your thoughts on having a moderator?
I'll share, we did that with the Thurston County Veterans Advisory Board. We brought in somebody to help us strategize because we're a group of 11. And just all over the place. And so for the first half of the day, we brought in somebody that helps with strategic planning and with kind of getting groups of people that come from all over the place to like focus and what are we doing with our funds and where are we going, and this person just kind of led us in that direction. And then we formed committees and and so that's how, and I'm imagining that's what you mean, it's like somebody that just can focus us and get us to a place of consensus.
Joseph,
I think that might be a good idea, because sometimes we might have
maybe sell house.
rabbit trail moments where we go off topic. And so if we had somebody that could keep us relevant to the topic of the conversation, or we start talking like, hey, well, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Let's get back here. That would be great, because sometimes that happens.
And I'm not talking about either myself or staff doing that, it would be someone external. Different perspective, different outlook on things.
Well, who is this guy and how much is this gonna cost?
Good
Because
question.
honestly, I've been on 2 of them and I feel like we do a pretty good job. We are not a group of something huge, and I don't know that we need to be spending extra pretty bad at this point in time.
Yeah. There would be a cost associated to it. We do have enough money in our training budget to do that if we wanted to. And maybe we'll have another conversation on this, but I think John Doe, was that who?
John Doe?
Yeah, John Doe, who was a former city administrator for Tomwater, was one that did the he was one of the planning commission. Yeah, for the planning commission. They seem to enjoy it. It doesn't necessarily have to be him. We could reach out to some others. There's different groups around here that offer those services. It would likely be someone who's involved, local government type stuff. Former city administrator, maybe concur, I don't know. We would have a couple different options, but yeah, cost would be, we're not gonna hire someone like $5,000, $10,000.
I mean, it's amazing what a great facilitator.
But
can
yeah,
do.
yeah.
That's I think what's key is a great facilitator can just make a meeting.
Put it on point and be intense, and
Yeah.
just get things done, be effective.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're talking more a facilitator or a moderator?
Yeah, a little bit of both, I think you could do either, but it wouldn't be there for the whole thing, but for a portion of it, we'd still have time, if you wanted for our own, our own discussion led by ourselves, we can absolutely do that too. It's your retreat.
I like to think someone that just to keep in mind, because when you pay for a service, the idea of paying for a service is to maximize the production. It's like going to Disneyland and buying a fast pass or buying a regular pass. I got the fast pass, so now we get to cut in line. So basically, you pay for a service so you can utilize that and maximize the time that you spend together. So I don't think we need to be concerned necessarily about, what is this going to cost us? We got to get another room. Oh man, I got to have somebody sleep in my same room with me. It's crazy. It's not about that. It's about paying for a service so we can use the time that we have to the most efficient possibility. That's what it's for. And that's what I think is exciting, because I get kind of dreary when we go to a meeting, and I've been on countless committee meetings where nothing gets done. And it's like, we just talked about a bunch of stuff and nothing's happening. We're just gonna come to the next meeting, we're gonna talk about the same stuff. We're gonna come to the next meeting, talk about the same stuff. I don't wanna be a part of that. I wanna be a part of something where we make a decision and we move forward. And if that's what the moderator does, get them, please.
It's too precious of a situation to let it just go waste.
I'm hearing there's support for this, and we'll start looking for a moderator then, and come back to council with, who would like this unless there's an objection. Okay. Right.
I just wanted to touch on location. In reference to that, I would like to be in a community that's similar to ours in the sense of that they've gone through the growth spurts, so we can see, some of that. I can't remember if the developers, if they did it in Clay Elm, some work there, that'd be great, so we can actually see what their work was like, and we can, kind of get a feel for what they're gonna do. I know we could go to Bonnie Lake, but that's not far, as they say. But if we can at least be in somewhat of a small community to kind of have that opportunity to look outside, look at another community and be able to go, what is it that draws people to this community? Why do people come? Why do they stay? And what did they do? What do we see that they did to either increase their tourism or the retail / commercial portion? That I think would be really a good help.
I will do my best to do something like that. We might be limited with the locations, but yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Well, Terry brings up Seabrook every third meeting, so.
I thought we need a moderator.
Just mentioning.
And I would caution anything up north from where we are, because it's especially,
That's
we're gonna
too
do it on the weekend. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you what it's like up there.
Yeah.
I avoid it at all costs, there's no reason, no, literally north of us. Everything south and west is pretty nice. And the peninsula,
Seabrook is.
and the peninsula.
We do, I mean, we do have a budget for this, but we do need to be fairly, in my opinion, fiscally responsible on this one.
Yeah, but to Brian's point, I mean, when I went there on a class, to walk around with the developer and say, this is what we did, and this is what we did, and look at this, and we're like, oh my God.
Perhaps.
You couldn't help but get inspired by it.
Perhaps it's something where we stay at something more formal like Ocean Shores, take a quick trip up there, look at their, what they've done, maybe have a meeting room up there, so maybe like that. Just a possibility thrown out there, but yeah, I'll consider that. Anything else on council retreat? If there is, feel free to email me, talk to me as
We're gonna be in the spring.
Oh, yeah, that was, thank you, time wise, we'll probably do it around April or so, somewhere in that time frame, April, May, end of March, somewhere around there. If there's any dates that are horrible for you, or let me know that as well too, as quickly as you can, any dates that, you have a trip coming up or whatever, we'd like to make sure that the council, ultimately, I want every single council member there, it's important that we do this together. And so if there is something that you can't do, well, let's try to work
Do
around it.
we tie this in any way to like the end of ledge session?
Selfishly, yes, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah, luckily it is a short session, so
Yeah.
middle of March is when it ends.
Just wondering, are we gonna get Mr. Sponsel here to cook again? I mean, past couple of times, the food's just not filled.
We could maybe convince them to.
Bring my barbecue.
Anything else?
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Moving on to mayor's report. Something that I like to make sure that if we're talking about the 640 acres, this is a big piece of what's going on in our city here. How that gets developed, obviously, we're moving forward with Blue Fern. How that happens, I think council needs to be aware of, because we're doing a lot right now. We're having a lot of meetings with Blue Fern, moving this forward. I want to make sure that not only council, but the public as well has a lot of information, updates on what's going on and consistently. So during my report, we're gonna go ahead and share, just give a monthly report about what's going on. As Todd's meeting, myself, Cody, Todd, are meeting with some of our folks, our attorneys, our internal staff weekly on this. Cody and his team, planning department, they're meeting with Blue Fern, some of those contractors wanting to move forward weekly. Now, what, you have 3 of those meetings a week ago?
Every Wednesday.
And so things are starting to move and progress. There's, as there's a lot of different steps for this to move forward. It's not just one, you get the 60 million or maybe a little bit more for this. It's getting phased out. And during all those phases, the city council and Blue Fern, there's opportunities for them. We have to partner on this together if we want it to look and feel the way that the council wants and the city wants, community wants. So every step of the way, it's important that we're on the same page. And council, myself, administration, Blue Fern, we're all on the same page. If something doesn't work for one of us, we don't want this progress to stop and just have one party walk away. So this is very important phase, this next year or 2 or so, the feasibility phase. It's after that milestone, we'll moving forward and quicker and You know, this isn't just 1 or 2 years, this is gonna be over like 15 years, 20 years, you know, so it's not just gonna be us, it's not gonna be me, it's gonna be the future councils and all that, but this is a huge, it's gonna determine, you know, the future of this community, so we gotta be very careful, we gotta do this right, and so. That said, I'm gonna ask Todd and Cody to go in and talk a little bit, and each one of them, I think, will be doing updates, a portion of this. What you're talking about.
If you like running notes, check the things that are going on as well.
What do you mean running?
Let's just give us some report, regular report, along with.
Yeah, we can do that.
Just general high level.
I think right now, we're just gonna have them verbally, I mean, obviously it's recorded, you can watch it on that too. But if there's something specific, maybe we do some quarterly or something that, yeah. If there's any major action taken, obviously we'll let you know. Not just on this monthly, but also, you know, stuff like that too. Todd, do you want to start us off?
Yep. So as the mayor said, this is a huge, obviously a huge project for us. Time that we've spent just since we signed the contract with them has been extensive. Blue Fern is, I wouldn't say aggressive, but they want to make this thing happen as soon as they can. They have a lot of people working on their side. We do as well. Like you said, we have attorneys, different groups, and Cody's team is meeting with them all the time. My piece of it is more in regards to the road or the loop, the connector loop. In particular is how that gets funded, how we pay for that loop. There's a couple of things we're looking into, and these are fairly rare in the state of Washington. There's two different RCWs. One is 3989 and one is 39114. One is a community revitalization financing RCW, the other one is the tax increment financing. Both of these are supposed to be used for communities that have areas that are undevelopable due to lack of infrastructure. So if there's no roads there, there's no infrastructure there, they can't do anything with it because the cost to get that infrastructure there is just too much. So we think that our 640 acre project would qualify under one of those types of RCWs to get the infrastructure that we need to connect this loop, roughly 3.2 plus mile loop, could be a little longer. The cost of that road, as we know, is extensive. Our initial estimates was between 50 and 60 million to do it. It's about a 110-foot wide road going through there with all the infrastructure to get up there. Blue Fern thinks they can get it done for less than that on how they would do it. So part of the thing to get this whole thing going is we have to get right of way through Triple D's property. There's still a stretch of land, roughly a mile. The first mile, I want to say, Cody, is not, we don't own that land, so we have to get the right of way to put that road in there. So we're currently exploring that and what that's going to look like for us to get that, what it looks like for us to obtain that right of way that's needed. And then where it's going to connect to 507. We had the original plan, drew it back in 2006, which brings it out. Kind of comes back out by George Road. And a lot of that was done because it kept it all within Triple D's land and our land. Because Triple D isn't a part of this plan.
At this point.
We're looking at other options to bring the connector out of the 507. Rather than going back through Triple D's land on two fronts, the front and the back of it. So that's good. I'll let Cody talk a little bit more about that as far as the planning goes for that road. So I just wanted to talk about two of the different financing options that are working. Give you an example of what was used or what's currently being done in other cities for this. Currently, there's a project going on in Pasco. It's a similar size site. It's about a 650 acre site. That again was just unbuildable due to the lack of infrastructure. They went through they did chapter 39114, which is the TIF financing option that they got approved and went through, and that's how they're funding all the infrastructure to develop that 650 acres. Another city that used it here in the last couple of years, I believe, was Walla Walla. They had about a 100 acre site. There was no access to the site. A large box store, commercial store said, if we had a way to get to that land, we would be interested in developing that land. They worked with that, I can't remember the name of the store offhand, but it was a big store. But anyway, they worked with them. They came up with a plan. Doing either of these financings is a partnership with the developer and the city. It's not just one or the other that has to do it, because you don't get this type of financing if it's not going to be developed. So it has to go hand in hand. So that's a successful project that happened in the last couple of years. They had to put a couple miles stretch of road, some infrastructure, and shortly after that, the store was built. And now they're benefiting from that in that area.
Kroger Ball.
I don't know if it was Kroger. I don't say, it could be. I mean, it could be the parent company of the store that we had. So in a nutshell, the way this funding works is it's based upon the assessed value of the land. And so currently, what they would do is they would go up there and say, what's the assessed value of the 640 acres? If you look on the tax sites, it's roughly $2.4 million, $2.5 million is what the value of that land is. How you fund and pay for this road is the increased value to the land based on the development that's being proposed. So if they say, well, this is the final layout, again, the conceptual plan would say this is how many homes, this is how much commercial, this is parks, open space. So what they would do is they say, when that's completely built out, the assessed value of that land is this amount. So how the road gets paid for is based on the increased property tax value of the land. So nobody pays for it other than the development itself. So nobody in Yelm would pay $1 to fund this road. It would only be the increased property tax value of that land. So for example, again, if it's 2.4 million and after phase 1 is complete, maybe it's worth 50 million. So that increased property tax revenue that they would have to pay based on that value, instead of going to us, would pay for the road. It would pay the road back. Once the road is paid back, then that all comes to the city for that purpose. So the city is giving up their ability to collect the increased property tax revenue, but the city is also making that up in the building of itself, right?
Is there any interest with that?
Yeah. So this is, so one of the challenging things that we're working through is, this is basically a bond. So it's like the city bond. So the city currently has a bondable capacity of roughly $30 million, give or take. That's our non-voted general obligation amount that's available to us currently is about 29 point something million. So under one of these processes, that counts against your non-voted general fund capacity, that bond. We're going to do what we're adamant about trying to do is to do a bond that does not count against our debt capacity. We think that's very important because of the length of time this would take to pay this back.
Those are bonds that do and bonds that don't.
Yeah, so there's.
Someone has to take the liability.
Yeah, so there's ways to assess liability to private, they might sell bonds privately, for example. It could go under Blue Fern, they assume the responsibility of these bonds. There's some complexities in that based on. Let's see, there's complexities in that based on the fact of if they were to assume the risk of the bond. Keep in mind, council still has to approve every phase of this development, right? So we don't want to be put in a corner to where we feel like we have to approve the development because their name is on the bond, right? So there are bond attorneys specifically that do this type of financing, that's where we are today, is working through that. How it can look for us, that it's a non-recourse bond is what that's called. So we've learned a ton about these types of bonds. We've already met with our fire district because, as you know, a fire district is a special taxing, right? And they have to be willing to give up their property tax revenue as well because they're part of that area. The way they give that up is through agreements with the developer to offset that impact, right? And so this is a new way of funding these facilities. So in 2021 is when 39114 was created. And then in 2023, they updated it to which is the 3989 RCW, which allows for a little bit more non-recourse type bonds. The city of Spokane is the only one that has ran 3989s yet. They've ran about 3 of them to build in different areas, and they've used this successfully to fund those projects. The other ones have one under 39,114. And I have copies of the difference between these. If you'd like, I can email that out to you to spend looking at your own time, the difference between the two. It can also be used to pay for other things, so not just roadways, but it can pay for the sewer lines, the water lines that are needed to connect everything. It can pay for parks. If we were to add parks as part of this funding, to build a whatever. Whatever kind of park you wanted to build, it's all, so it's not just for roads. So where we are currently is Blue Fern has hired an individual by the name of Bob Stowe, who's a former city manager from Bothell, Mill Creek area. Bob is now a TIF consultant. That's all he does in the state of Washington. He is a TIF expert. And at some point in the near future, I would imagine you will meet Bob, who will explain this to us in a very detailed way that only he can do. So what Bob is doing currently is he's just doing an initial assessment of the land, the development plans, to determine if one of these financing options are the best way to fund this road.
Who's paying for that?
Blue Fern is paying for that initial assessment. If in fact it does become, this is a good way for us to go, and council agrees that we're gonna pursue creating a TIF district per se. Then what we would do is the city would hire Bob to represent the city and work through agreements with the fire district and the schools and all these things that are a part are impacted by creating this financing.
And that come out of our general budget.
So yes, that does come out of a general budget, but that is also reimbursable through the TIF financing. So as money comes in, you can repay that back through the tax financing option. I don't know how much confusion did I bring to the table?
For me, just one snap.
Okay,
If it's valued at, whatever it's valued at right now, that property tax amount, is the city still gonna, and everybody who collects from that is still going to get that? Or did it all of a sudden become a black hole
No,
of
it's
no tax
city
money
owned right
comes out?
now.
yeah.
Yeah, it's city owned right now, so we're not paying.
Yeah, so what happens is, let's just say it was being paid on at $2 million right now, that's the property tax. That always gets collected, that
Okay.
never goes away, so you create a baseline of where it's at today. And the importance of establishing the baseline before you do anything is critical, because as you know, as soon as you break ground up there, that property value goes up significantly. As soon as that road reaches the 640, that property goes up dramatically. All of that increase in property tax assessment goes to pay for that road. So essentially, that development of the 640 will pay for that entire road. Nobody else will pay for that road. Nobody's taxes go up. Even under this, your taxes don't go up. It's just a matter of where the property tax money goes. Does it go to us or does it pay for the road?
I just want to make sure that the initial, whatever that
Yep.
baseline is,
Yep.
that we, school district, everybody who
Yep.
has a hand in there
Yep.
is getting that minimum at least.
Yep, they don't lose that. And just for that, because you mentioned school district, sorry, I forgot to mention, but the school district is excluded from this. So as this property tax value increases, the school district still collects their additional revenue. The only one in our case that would be different would be the fire district. They're the only one that is not excluded. We've already met with the chief just to bring him on board, to talk to him about what we're looking at, to get him familiarized with what these two options are, because obviously we don't want him to be in the dark with how this works. He was somewhat familiar with them, but he was gonna do some research on it himself to determine how that looks for him. And so where we are currently, if we're gonna, Bob is doing the assessment to see how big of TIF area we need to create. So council by ordinance would have to create a TIF district.
What does that stand for?
Yeah, so tax incremental financing is what TIF stands for. And the other one is community revitalization financing. There's two different options, but they're similar in how they work. So once we do this, Bob will determine how big of an area you need. Because the area that can be in the TIF district is any area that's impacted by the improvements that are made, which is obviously pretty significant if you wanted to go out. Now, going out into neighborhoods that are already established, doesn't really increase the value much, right? Because they already pay a baseline. So if their house goes up $10,000 and they pay another, $40 a month, they would still pay the same that they always would. That $40 would go to pay back the bond on the road. Whereas the new development, where their baseline, what we talked about, the baseline is here. Every time they build a house or every time it goes up, that entire increase goes to pay back that bond.
And it's gonna be a lot too, like 2 million to 50, 100 million, whoever knows.
And what you just commented on the TIF. If we have to go through the triple D property, can that be included in the TIF?
So here's another thing, regarding to the triple D land, by creating the TIF district that. In our opinion, has to include triple D's land, because they're gonna benefit significantly from that infrastructure improvement, right? That would mean that if they develop their land. That is part of a TIF district that goes to pay for that road, so which is another benefit, and I know we've talked about. Them getting that value without doing anything for it. Any development in the TIF district would go to pay back that infrastructure, which is, it's similar to like an LID, how we used to do the LIDs, but these are more preferred today than an LID, especially a non-recourse TIF, if we're available to get that.
And the only reason I'm kind of trying to understand that base versus up is that we, as a council and as a city, we are able to still depend upon that original $2 million value for tax revenue, or all of a sudden going, nope, that's no longer there, so now.
Yeah, we don't give up anything we're currently getting.
Okay, and that's all I wanna make sure about, because that, and that shows that for the rest of the city, nothing's changing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, everything I've learned about this, and it's been a lot over the past couple of months in regards to this, and several meetings with Bob for him to explain how this works and how it doesn't work. It's pure and simple that the growth of the 640 would pay for this road. And that's why in order for one of these different financing options to be approved, it's a developer and city agreement. Both of them have to be a part of it, because it doesn't get built without the development. And it's important, obviously, for everybody that, our general tax dollars and revenue isn't building, obviously it's a $50 million road. We don't have that money to do that, nor would it'd be a while to get legislative money to get that kind of money to build that road. So it's an option that has worked in other cities. The folks we've talked to so far are very optimistic that it would work. Blue Fern has used TIFs before, so they're familiar. They have their own TIF attorneys. We now have our own TIF bond attorneys that are very familiar with tax incremental financing. And so everybody is at the table asking the questions to make sure that the city of Yelm is represented correctly and appropriately in how we fund this project. But it's a lot.
Let's give other people an option. We'll get back here. Tracy.
I'm curious, you mentioned that once it gets developed, obviously the property values will significantly lower. And the road is a $50 million road, let's just say for argument. So obviously, we're gonna have a hell of a lot more funding coming in than that $50 million. So what I'm getting at is there a possibility to include the entire city in this TIF?
Yep. So what Bob will, because there's two rules, with the standard TIF financing under 114, you can go for 25 years. That's as long as you can stretch that bond out for. On the other one, you can go 30 years. Now, what Bob does is he determines the area needed in order to make sure that that loan can be paid back within that time frame. So, for example, if just the 1250 and the growth of that is enough to pay that back in 25 or 30 years, that's the district established. If it's the whole west side of town, they'll add that to make it, yeah. So that's what Bob is doing currently, and he will guide us and recommend council through this whole process. So that's what Bob does. He works with councils to educate and help and work through the complexities of creating this district. We would be, maybe one of probably less than 10 cities total that have ever done this type of financing.
It's fairly new.
It's fairly new. And so it's exciting because it's new. It's interesting to learn about how it can be done. But in simple matters, it's a matter of trying to make land buildable that is currently not buildable due to no infrastructure.
And this would be the first, we would be the first jurisdiction in Thurston County to.
Yeah, I presented, I was at I was at a presentation 2 weeks ago with other city administrators in the county. I mentioned that we're, gonna look at developing the 640, and I mentioned the TIF, and nobody knew what that was, but there was a lot of conversation afterwards, like, hey, can I be a part of that? I'd love to learn about it. So it's a new way of funding, but at the end of the day, the development itself pays for that infrastructure in that road. So where otherwise it would never be built, at least.
Did you have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if Triple D doesn't sell to us, are we going to condemn the portion?
We don't sell to them. It's not what we sell to that.
Sure, we need to go through.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you meant, I'm sorry, Triple D. If Triple D doesn't sell to, it wouldn't be to us, it would be to Blue Flamingo.
Blue.
But yeah, if that doesn't happen, are you talking about the right of way?
Yeah.
What happens? Yeah, do you want to talk about the process?
We would pursue that avenue of taking it. Blue Fern has already, they're well aware of that hurdle because that could be a time.
Don't we want to do that sooner rather than later, because that numbers just need.
So they're already working with Blue Fern to acquire that land that's needed. There are some ways for us to get access to our land even before we get that. There's a law or code that allows us to get access to it, but those conversations are already underway with Triple D. They know we need the access there. Obviously, the road benefits them, so, I don't think the fight will be that they wouldn't let us. I think the delay is gonna be because there's so many people involved in the Triple D side that would need to sign off and agree for us to take this land, but they're well aware of that being a delay, and that's the last thing they wanna do is delay anything, so.
Blue Fern knows how to make this work, regarding access. And what Tom was talking about, they have experience in doing this, through the courts if needed.
So they've also set aside money, so in that, in their offer that will be accepted from them, there is an amount set aside to purchase that land from Triple D. And so they set aside, I believe, 300,000 in the contract to acquire the total acreage needed, but it's not a ton, but obviously that first stretch to get through. That's why we're also extending that onto a different location under 507, because the original plan goes through Triple D, narrowly goes through our 640, and then goes right back into Triple D and comes out. So the less time we spend with that road in Triple D, the better off we're gonna be too, so.
So what is the timeline for acquiring?
As soon as possible.
I would say within the next 6 months is their plan.
Okay.
Yeah. They, yeah, I'll let Cody talk about their timeline and their goals, because it's remarkably fast what they want to do. Even, I mean, we'd love to go fast too, but we also know that there's a lot of steps we need to follow and make sure that everything's right.
Any more questions for Todd regarding the TIF for the road? Right?
Sorry, I was gonna ask, could they get an easement, but you want to own the road, because there's enough of it.
I was willing to do an easement, but
Yeah, and the only thing I would say to this, too,
Eminent domain for the easement, yes.
it's just a lot of.
and so if anyone, and I can send this out, make copies, give this to you if you want to look at it. But if anyone ever wants to come in and sit down and talk about what more detail, what this is, I'd be happy to do it anytime. Just shoot
I'd
me.
love to see it like on a whiteboard.
Yeah, and there, and I actually have a PowerPoint that Bob sent. Until you understand it a little bit, it wouldn't make any sense, because it didn't make any sense to me the first 15 times I looked at it. I had to call Bob, I'm like, Bob, walk me through this, and so there is a lot to it, and that's why I really wanted to start at every study session, is to give updates on where we are, because that way when Bob does come to council, or we do come where we're ready to talk about creating a district, it's not the first time you've heard about it. You have some familiarity with what it is, so.
Right?
In reference to, and I just want to make sure I understand. The district, the TIF district could end up incorporating all of Yelm. But the only thing that would change is that if somebody's property tax went up $40 for a year, that $40 goes paid TIF, not to us.
Unlikely it would be the whole.
Oh, no,
But yes, yes.
Yeah.
So their taxes don't go up. Nobody's taxes go up to pay for this road. It's just based on the.
Allocation.
So what they value is they say, with this infrastructure in place, how does it impact property values in an area? So if you live in an area and your values are gonna go up because of the infrastructure that goes in, that would be a likely place to include in the TIF district because you're benefiting from that improvement. And that's what Bob will do, is determine who really benefits from it.
Someone by Safeway, they're not gonna.
No, as I said, it's just one of those things, that I wanted to make sure that there was an understanding so that if people all of a sudden, their taxes go up just because of the value of their property.
Yeah.
What I meant is that the amount that they have to pay, because the value of their house goes up.
That, it would stay the same, it would stay the same, again, we're only taking it, we're not taking it. The excess goes to the,
That's
Lowest fees, higher tax. Very sorry.
Yeah, wherever they are today, we
Yeah.
can still collect our.
Right, what I meant is that if, my house goes up in value from
If you're in there.
$200 to $300,000. When the assessor comes in, my tax, not the percentage went up, it's the amount they got paid has gone up, but it's not because we increased taxes, it was the value, the assessor went in and said, your amount value is this.
Okay, there's not gonna be new assessments or anything, the assessor's not gonna come by.
No, but it just wouldn't happen.
But yeah,
So you're borrowing future money that's not even there yet to pay back something, and it's all
anticipated, yeah.
it's in a bond.
Right,
Where's the actual money?
so,
It's like that thing that Stephanie was saying.
yeah,
about-
we would get the bond, and the bond would be given out in phases, right? Because it would just wouldn't give us $50 million check and say build the road, it would be broken into phases. Use a bond, use a bond attorneyship, and they can sell them privately, they can sell them privately, yep. And so, yes, that is why, in order to do one of these plans, this plan from Blueford has to be a realistic, sustainable plan, right? If Bob looks at it and goes, that's not a realistic plan, like what you wanna do is not realistic. He would recommend, city, this is not a good way to finance this because it's that. The other piece of it, though, is when we talk about the non-recourse of it, let's say we do get a bond for 20 million to build phase 1 or phase 2. And at the end of the day, Blueford goes, you know what, this just isn't gonna work for us, right? We're out of here. Being a non-recourse bond, it wouldn't fall back on the city under that plan. I'm not saying that's how it's gonna be, but we're looking at all those options to put our risk as low as possible. One of the things we had talked about internally was even if we bonded the first phase of the road to get into the 640. So let's say it was $10 million to go the first mile. If Blue Fern was to walk away at the end of that, yes, we'd be on the hook for the $10 million bond to build that road, but we just increased the property value of our land up there probably 3 times what it's currently worth. Because the reason it's worth what it is because there's no way to get there. And the cost to get there is too great. So just so, I mean, we talk about that internally when we talk about minimizing risk, is if we're gonna put in something that's under our dime, is if it's improving an access to an area we own, then it also improves the value. So
But
just-
it's not a conflict of interest, like they hired Bob and we're.
no, we talked to Bob already about that, made that very clear that Bob is just gonna determine if this is gonna work. And we've had multiple conversations with Bob and Bob clarified his role when he does represent the city, what his intentions are and how clear it'll be, but
Good question.
yeah, good question.
And the last one for me is, because we've been very successful going after grants and various things like that, we are able to get grants. Will that help pay back? Okay, I just want to make sure that all of a sudden.
And we will,
Right.
this is just, if we have no other option. But we will absolutely go for state grants, hopefully get a few million out of that, we're not gonna get 50 million. from the
No,
state.
I'm just saying that, every little dime helps to
And then
get a loan paid off.
And the long term of this too, to consider is that once these are paid off, and if they are paid off in 20 years as opposed to 25, for example, all that amount that was normally going to pay that TIF back now comes to the city, right, in full amount. So, I mean, obviously that's beyond any of our time here, but it also has a long-term benefit, down the road to think about, so.
One more question, the non-resource, does that fall back, or recourse, fall back on the bondholders?
So there's two ways. It can fall back on the people that bought the bonds,
Yeah.
or it can fall back on Blue Fern. Right, just if they were to accept the liability of the bonds, but again, like we talked about earlier, that makes it a little bit odd for them to do that. Or it can fall back on us, and that's what we're trying to determine right now is, you know, we have a $30 million, like I said, debt capacity. But we also have other things in the city we need to do with that money. So rather than using every penny of our debt capacity, that's not something we're interested in doing. So Blue Fern is well aware of that. And they're adamant that there's not gonna be the case. So, yeah, so stand by. There's a ton, and that's just my piece. Cody hasn't even talked about his yet.
Cody, Griselda, is there any questions on your end? Joseph?
No, it's good.
I'm feeling super confident. I heard about this before when we were talking about it. Sounds really interesting.
Yeah, we're, staff has been great on this, making sure that we do everything we can for the best interests of the people of Yelm. Cody, what is the timeline of how often are you meeting? What are you talking about in these meetings?
Yeah, so I'll try to be brief, but stop me because there will be a lot of updates on this. First is we're meeting 3 times a week. So we meet once in the morning on Wednesday for transportation, specifically traffic. What are their impacts? What do they have to affect? What do they have to fix? So part of their impacts, like I'll get, Councilor Johnson, one second. Part of the original impact study showed a bunch of intersections outside of the 640 that they impact. Longmire, Toma Boulevard, 507, so 507 where Ma's been hit. So there's a bunch of impacts that were in that original plan that they have to address somehow, some way. So we're working with them on those of what they're going to do, what they're not going to do, and those will be on them. They're developer driven and benefits. So it could be roundabouts, it could be lights, it could be new side roads built in. So they have to figure all that out. That's part of their thing. That's our first meeting at 10 o'clock. We do is just traffic. What are they going to do? How are they going to hook things up? Question about traffic.
I was just curious if those, could we observe? Those is pretty one to repent.
I don't see why you couldn't observe those. They're very technical, so if it's something you want to observe, I don't see, I'll lean towards the mayor of his decision.
If you wanna see like the process, of what they're talking about, yeah, just be like a fly on the wall,
Yeah,
but it wouldn't be meant for you to engage with the contractors or anything like that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have an issue, Cody didn't have an issue.
Yeah, and we do, those are, we meet in person once a month, but they're on Zoom or Teams majority of the time, so, because they work in different areas of Washington, so it's hard to meet out here. We meet again at 1 o'clock for a planning meeting, and that's purely developing the conceptual and the design of what it's gonna look like. So we just received today their conceptual, and what their conceptual is just establishing zoning districts. So the first thing they have to do in the master plan community is establish zoning districts. So where's gonna be residential, where's commercial, where's open space, where's everything. So they sent that first one over to us. We're gonna look over it. We've looked over it a little bit. We'll look over it tomorrow morning and then provide feedback. There's some things we already noticed. So just give you an idea, they're proposing about 2,400 resident homes, right? And then there's acres of commercial, there's acres of open space, but the homes was the thing that stuck out to us. And so just kind of pushing back on that and going, well, it's just homes. You need to also do some apartments. You need some multifamily, you need some stuff. So that's normal to come back and forth with a couple ideas. They also proposed a road layout that's different from the original road, as Todd said, is that the road will actually go through the 640, the heart of it, versus going through the edge of it. So that's going to be a different take, which is fine. We don't have a problem with that. That main Toma Boulevard going through the 640 is just an adjustment that we'll have to do. So that's our 1 o'clock meeting. Then we meet immediately whenever the 1 o'clock finishes. If it's 2:33, we meet for an infrastructure meeting, which is purely for water, sewer, storm. So the biggest thing about this is we have the capacity down here to provide water, sewer, and storm. The issue is it's 230 feet up in the air that way, which seems weird, right? Yelm we're about 330 to 400 feet of elevation in downtown Yelm. When you get up there, it gets up to 560 feet of elevation. So we have to get water up there. So part of that's going to be a new tower up there, a new well up there, which is fine. We expected those things, but it's figuring out how we get those built. They have to be built before a house can be done. right? But there are ways we can do them simultaneously, so.
How
they-
they're gonna benefit the people around that area too.
Yeah, so one thing we always hear complain about if you live in Tomatera, my water pressure is horrible. So the benefit of this is that we'll be having PRVs, which is a pressure reducing valve installed. One, the first one will be right at the bottom of the hill of Tomatera, which means Tomatera's water pressure will increase 10 to 20 PSI, which will allow those people to have better water pressure. Right now, the water pressure is within standards, but it's always better to have a little bit more. So we'll establish, this is gonna be a little technical, 3 pressure zones. So every 100-ish feet, you want a new pressure zone of water because water has weight. And so as it builds up, it develops pressure, you need to separate those zones. So they have to establish those zones along that pipe. And then they'll have another tower up there, similar to what we built by Walmart. We're trying to kind of use that same plan and just build it up there. It may need to be a little bit higher, but we'll figure that out. And there will need to be a well up there because we have to pump the water into that. We can't pump water uphill reliably. We will have booster pumps that will back up, but you need a well up there that'll be the main source of water, which is.
Who pays for those booster pumps?
Yeah, the booster pumps will be paid for by the developer, and that's part of the agreement that we're working on right now is who pays for what? Do we excuse some fees? Do we give them credit for some fees? Because that's the way you can do things. So each house, when they hook up, pays a development charge, about $8,000 for water. So you can excuse X amount of fees. So the first 200 homes, they do a water hookup because you built the $10 million well. Right, so there's ways you can balance those things out, but that's all what we negotiate. The thing that was surprising is in our second meeting with them, I had not expected to have a water and sewer conversation right away. They were ready to have it, which means they're way farther ahead in planning of their infrastructure than I thought they would be. Not a problem, we can handle it, but it was just, they're moving way quicker than we thought, which is a good thing, right? We want to see this done. But it's getting those balances. So that 1 to 3 o'clock or the 2 to 4 o'clock meeting is just infrastructure, water and sewer.
So it sounds like there's gonna be some good balance. This from up there?
Yeah, so the water tower will be, when it's all said and done, it's probably in elevation about 680 feet. And if you think about the highest point in Yelm right now with our water towers is about 430 feet in elevation. So you'll be about 200 feet above the entire city. It's gonna be amazing to look up there. And there'll be some, I'm sure they're strategically putting some houses at the higher points. That'll be a little bit nicer and probably sell for a little more because they will have you'll be able to look down on the entire city, not, Seattle style where it's like this, but it'll be a nice slow descent from the top area there. It might be snowing up there and raining down here. So a lot of the infrastructure is just what we're doing. It's a long process. Tracy.
I'm curious, you mentioned digging a well, drilling a well up there, which aquifer they're looking at this going down into?
Yeah, so the same aquifer that our current that well up at Tomatera would touch, it all hits that same.
It's 1,000 foot.
Yeah, the really deep one, and they already have a couple of monitoring wells up there, so we know there's water up there, because that's always a concern, right, of monitoring. And so what would happen is we have water rights, we know we need water rights in about 20 years, we talked about this a while ago. We can transfer some of the water rights from our current well up at Tomatera to that well to allow it to run. And then over the next 15 to 20 years, as we continue to work on this, we apply for new water rights, and we know it takes about 15 years to get water rights. So we should be good to have those water rights in 15 years when
When will we start that process to gain more water rights?
So literally probably after tomorrow. So our meeting tomorrow is going to kind of lay the groundwork for the water and what they're going to do. And then we start the process of getting more water rights, which is about a 15-year process. So
We'll start the process, other councils and mayors will finish that.
Yeah.
With, in reference to water rights, when Triple D happens to sell the land to Blue Fern, would that water right come to the city, or is that gonna be Blue Fern's water right?
So there is no water rights currently up there. That's the bad side. There is a couple, there's a couple old farmlands up there, but there's a couple areas that had water rights, but they stopped using them, and ecology is really quick to retain those. Yeah, and you go, well, you don't actually have them anymore, you lose them. The other option, still the golf course at some point getting those. It's only gonna be, I imagine about 20 years, we're gonna need roughly 100 to 200 acre feet of water to finish off the city. Again, with how well Yelm uses water, we're seeing that may not be the case. As you guys get the ERU reports every month, you probably saw that. Even though our number is about halfway to what our max is, we're only using about 2/5 of our water. So there's room, we're actually saving more than we've predicted. So we'll readjust those ERUs every year, and we might actually not need it when we get to that point, but just on the safety, we're gonna apply ahead of time.
Any other questions for Cody?
One of the things that we'll work on next is a development agreement. So as far as who pays for what, who builds what, that'll all be in the development agreement. That'll be the next piece that we'll fine tune so that there's no question on how things are being funded and how things are being built. So
What does a 110-foot wide road consist of?
So if you Toma Boulevard, just continuous. So that exact road, it's yeah, Toma Boulevard's 90 feet, and then you have 10 feet on both sides of utility easements.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
We have an example.
Yeah, you do. That road will continue. It'll be beautiful. It'll continue. Yeah. Nice 4-laner with big sidewalks.
And all,
With an island in the middle.
With islands, then we'll have islands or turn lanes in the middle, perfect for running if you like running.
and that will continue with their long-term vision of really handling traffic around here with that diamond. With the northern Yelm loop, it will be in the northern side of it, this being the corner of it, it goes out to George, around George Road. And then finally the last leg, which would go at Walmart, behind Prairie Elementary, behind Mill Pond, in that area.
And George-ish is a good.
George-ish.
In Washington, would.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments on this? Again, we will be doing this monthly at study session, to make sure the council as well as public has, updates on, all, every step of the way. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Nothing else from me. I got sworn in, officially yesterday, by election, supervisor of Pearson County. Was a very ceremony in the city. So it's getting that, I'm able to swear everyone in today. Congratulations on all the council members. Zelda, you're the only real new person here. Congratulations and welcome, council. If you ever have any questions, myself, staff, feel free to reach out to any of us. Want to make sure you got all the information that you need. Same goes obviously for Reds Council. If you ever need anything from myself or from any staff, pretty easy to get that information. All right, Councilmember initiatives. Anyone have anything they want to discuss initiative wise?
Wanted to discuss roads, but we already did.
We got a lot of it, yeah.
We discussed that, but
Yeah, it's one of those roads.
What I needed to talk about.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of roads come in here the next few years. We've done a lot to get them funded, to plan them. I'm really hoping and I'm pretty confident these roundabouts will fruition here over the next 2 years and definitely within 4 years completed. Anything else? Good in order? All right, we're adjourned.